Okay, yay. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Up Close and Personal, Resilience Gone Wild. Deep connection with individuals who have made a deep connection with some bit of nature that has changed them and wowed them and made them more resilient and made them just want to bring that story forward. So welcome, Lady Mermaid. I will ask you to introduce yourself because you have a great way of doing that. And I'm so happy you're here. So thank you. Tell us about what you're doing.
Oh, well, I am known as Lady Mermaid of Miami, but I grew up in Estonia, post-Soviet Union. So definitely have seen so many different sides of the life, thanks to having such a background. And I am known as a mermaid because I own 5 individual Guinness World Records and then another world record, so 10 total. But I swam 31.3 miles without using my arms with the mermaid tail. And I picked 35 pounds of trash while breaking a Guinness World Records. I mean, in every Guinness World Record, I pick up trash. That's my daily routine.
I'm so curious, actually, because I haven't seen pictures of how you do this. How do you actually pick it up while you're swimming? And you've got this like amazing, beautiful thing with the mermaid tail that you swim, this graceful, gorgeous swimming thing. How do you pick the trash up at the same time?
Well, the scary news is I have an arm on the front when I swim on a side, and I don't use that for stroke. But the plastic just ends up between my arms, and I don't even have to watch it.
So but letting it float into a bag or something?
Well, I pick up and put it on my swimsuit, and then when I see the marine police being a little bit closer than or kayak who feeds me, then I am always like giving a warning. And one Guinness World Record, I think the Guinness boat had to constantly stop, and I had to like keep giving them a plastic, and they realized then why I'm doing what I'm doing because animals get stuck on fishing nets and plastics, and that's why they can't use their arms. So my Guinness World Record speaks on behalf of them, and they were in shock when they saw me doing that. But I'm really good picking up more trash. I would like to pick up like Rolex and money one day, but until then I'm picking up trash and awareness.
So you're not the one who's out there with the little metal detector. You're just picking up the plastic and stuff that doesn't actually belong there as much. That's awesome. Actually, I think you're headed to Minnesota to ice swim to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us, are you planning to pick up trash there too, or is that a clean space somehow?
I have like OCD. When I see trash, I pick that up, and I always have a little fishing net between my wallet. So when I go out, I always have a little bag ready to blow up and kind of pick up trash and then toss it up on a nearest trash can. But I grew up in Estonia, and I was never into ice swimming. But when I moved to Miami, I kind of like start doing those cold plunges, and I felt like they were so boring because they're always telling you go and be there for 3 minutes. And I was like, I can do more than that. So I started exercising that, and then I got invited to test out ice swimming world championships. And I was like, why not? Like what a hair to lose, because after that maybe sauna will wait me. So I went to 2018 to my first world championships, and I broke all these records, and I actually was swimming equal with the pool times what you usually swim in a warm heated pool.
Wow.
Is that I think ice swimming can be something crazy and next. And just in March, I was on another World Championships where I won 4 gold medals, broke another world record, Estonia record, and also there were like 40 countries, 1,500 athletes. So definitely it's going to be one day in Winter Olympics, because
awesome. That's the whole point, right? Like if you can keep inspiring people to join you, like we were talking about this before, like join with, it's not just the ice swimming to be cool. It's the ice swimming, no pun intended. It's the ice swimming which is actually great for your body, right? Like Craig
Yeah.
Foster, who made, among other things, my octopus teacher, wrote a book, Amphibious Soul, that had this huge impact on me. And he talks a lot about how it changes the fat in your body
Yeah.
to be cold. And he's always in the cold water, really cold water swimming. So I imagine that you've built up this amazing body structure that lets you keep doing this. And it inspires others, like, be healthy, be an ice swimmer.
I saw like a 94-year-old swimming on a competition, and I was like, I want to be like her. And she's walking around, she's running, she's 94. I don't understand all these longevity people. They're going off the track with the pills. They should come and learn, ice swimming, because literally, I mean, meat stays better in cold. We all know that when we go to meat market, right? But the fact, like, how straightforward, how brain is working, how nerve system is working, it's kind of like you kind of teach your body to be like a superpowers. And especially my story, that I started swimming because my lungs almost collapsed, and then I ended up in ice swimming, and I had to learn the breathing technique. What now I can tell you is the best secret for success. And honestly, like, seeing these older ladies and men swimming, like, not just one lap, they were swimming there like 100 meters. I was like, what is wrong with me then? So definitely I recommend anybody to try to go cold plunge, but real cold plunge is in a nature. You get the nature perspective. You might have a bird singing, and it's just it's so magical, because you kind of reconnected really with your core. And every human should find their core, not trying to find that out from somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a deep, deep connection to nature, which is part of us, but we're so separate from it. Like, we have these fancy bathtubs that do cold ice baths now, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just go find a cold pool of water. They do it in Iceland. I know in Iceland, like, they have Craig Foster talks about swimming with the kelp off the coast of South Africa, and you're doing it in Minnesota. Like, find nature and be in it, and it's a completely different experience.
But I had a situation in Estonia, one of the fastest growing IT firm called TransferWise, where even Richard Branson invested millions. They whole office decided, instead of having second or third coffee or cinnamon bun, they actually decided to spend lunch breaks to go and dip in the Baltic Sea and then go back to work, because the brain was actually working better after that little dip. So now when we had the World Championships, the whole IT department, all these IT smart guys showed up, and they were like, some guys were from India and stuff, and you're looking like, oh, right, you see, Silicon Valley, we figured out how to actually take care of our workers.
Spectacular story. Like, nobody can say this isn't for me, my body's not set for this, or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, try it, right? And like, embrace something new, and embrace connecting deeply with nature for that newness. Yeah. So tell me, what we planned this episode actually around talking about oysters, right? And resilient oysters. So I'm guessing there's some connection here with oysters and cold water and whatever, because I know they can live in all different temperatures of water and do all kinds of cool, resilient stuff. So tell us about your story of oysters.
Funny enough, as a girl from Estonia, I have seen fossils on our rocks. So I know that there has been in some pointos, and I studied a lot on 5th grade, but then we never had somewhere to find oysters. But my mom loves to eat them, but I don't eat any seafood because I feel those are my friends. Yeah. But then I started learning when I came to America, I started learning all about polluted waters. And that was really really hurtful to know that we pollute our waters, we pollute our rivers and lakes, and especially, one thing is agriculture, but our own behaviors in cosmetics, using a wrong, um, even wrong medicines, and that can end up on fish skin and all that. But then I learned about 1 billion oyster project in New York, and I was just invited to go and swim with the Navy SEAL around Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
And then
because it used to be all full of oyster. I'm from New York. It was all oysters, right? And
yeah,
oyster fields, and it filtered and cleaned all that water.
yeah. So
Right?
I was like, there you go. Number one, humans don't, run constantly, listen to signs of the nature. And oysters were kind of like shining towards to me and telling me that we need to replant them so we can clean up our bays, our lakes, our oceans. And then when I was there, I actually had a chance to go and clean up the oysters, and next day Prince William of England went to plant them back to East River, and I
Wow.
and I and I saw just
Two royals, right? Two
yeah.
royals because Lady Mermaid has been knighted for the work that she's done. So we've got royal family going here. So
Yeah, it's just like I fell in love the whole oyster thing, and then I came to Miami, and we know that Biscayne Bay, where I have set 2 records, actually suffered also on deep fish kill, and we had to put ventilator tubes inside the bay to restart the oxygen for the fish. And I realized there's such a big connection with like everything what I do that I need to restart educating Miami restaurants to look into saving Biscayne Bay. And some artists start like introducing me how to do it, and then every person who I meet who has, house on a waterside, I tell them the story about oysters, and I educate them. And every restaurant they go around, I educate them about oysters, because I truly believe that we have found solution because we listened to nature, and oysters are so amazing. I did a test that in 2 hours they cleaned up Biscayne Bay on my bucket.
But
In two
those
hours.
amazing pig, like we'll post some videos of it. Like they put a bunch of oysters or mussels or other filtering crustacean and in like this 2 buckets. One's still cloudy and muddy, and the other
Yeah.
one is totally sparkling clear. It's like an amazing quick science experiment. We all need to see that in action.
This is the $1 billion project. What like if we want to keep having oxygen, so we don't have to put the ventilator tubes inside a bay to restart the oxygen because we have over fertilized them or over pollute them, then we do have our own blue economy on our hands, and every person can be part of that. I mean, now I clean the oysters for Prince William, like everybody can have a chance to help the world to have the oxygen and to have the success. Because honestly, running 9 businesses, I have told all my co-partners that what's the point of running any business in this world if we don't have oxygen? And I feel like oysters are my hope spot, my hope.
Can you give us a little explanation? Because I'm not sure everybody knows the whole construct of oxygen in water, and that fish actually need to have water that has a certain level of oxygen in it. And these dead lakes and dead bays and dead areas are dead because the oxygen is gone, because the whole balance is completely gone. So can you describe it? You clearly know a ton about this. So can you describe a little bit why it matters and how it works and what everybody else can do?
Yeah, like if you step out and you feel like, oh, I can't breathe because something is like pushing the air down, that's what happens in the lakes and bay. And when we over polluting on a hot day, um, the bacteria starts growing, the algae start growing, and then that means the oxygen can't get through the water towards the fish, so they can breathe that in with their gills. And the worst thing what usually happens is that, like, we need trees to have oxygen as a humans. In a bay or lake, when we lose a seagrass or any kelp or like anything what can help us to like photosynthesize our oxygen, then the fish don't have anything else to breathe than chemicals and they die. And we had a situation in Biscayne Bay where for 12 hours the oxygen levels went down to zero. And that's the same when a human, measures their oxygen, and if you don't have the circulation going on, then you can't pump any more oxygen to your lungs, and then you die. And the same happened with the fish. And sadly, especially on hot days when the circulation is not going around because everything is off balance, the algae just eats basically the oxygen out from the water, then the fish might be swimming towards you and start suffocating, and you can't do anything, and they die in front of your eyes. So the only way to like restart the bay is like in aquarium. You maybe people have seen, they have the little bubbles. So basically the bubbles can start and the movement. We need the movement, because sometimes when somewhere algae gets stuck and there is no movement, then that means under that it suffocates everything, meaning also the fish. So it was the craziest time for me when I saw it, because I'm not used to even dream about that. I don't think in Disney Ariel dreamed about that. But it was during the pandemic when we saw, humans couldn't breathe because nothing wasn't circulating on their lungs. And then same time you saw fishes couldn't breathe. So it was scary because we had to react. And for 12 hours in a big bay to get the oxygen back to even to start raising again was one of the scariest moments in my life. And then I started learning this can happen in Miami, it can happen in Brazil, it can happen in Europe, it can happen in any place in the world. And it happens also places where we don't have social media or phones to film and capture it. But nowadays they have more satellites who are also a little bit calculating that. And I actually have suggested to weathermans to start maybe bringing that into when they measure the weather.
How cool is that, to give a percentage of oxygen in the water?
That when the water gets hot, it also can cause a heart attack. So let's see. I mean, I'm working on it.
We have to make it apply to the human who's swimming so that we can then care about the fish that are swimming, right? Like we were talking about that. Like it has to be about me so that I'll take some action. But that is really informative. And then you get all these signs up that say, red flag, don't go swimming today. And you get annoyed, right? Like, why can't I go swimming today? Well, there's a whole cycle, there's a whole process, right? That explains why you can't go swimming today, and you can do something to change that. You can do something to help.
Yeah, and I have to say that if people in America were looking news this summer, there were 53 million couldn't swim this summer on a beach because there were so many different problems. One was the algae, the other one was a rip current, the third one was the flesh-eating bacteria, like those are all connected with the worries what we have. And if that is for humans, fishes are, next. And we can go to AC houses, but they cannot. So we need to react.
Yeah, it was a very scary time in Florida the last couple of years because the water, well, it's the reason the Gulf is so hot and it's creating all these hurricanes, but the coral reefs we're up, like the temperature of the water was over 100 degrees, right? Like
101.
Fish don't live in a hot tub. Like they can't live in a hot tub. And it's literally as hot as we are only allowed to be in for 20 minutes, right? Like in a hot tub at 104. And
Yeah.
it's 104.
So technically, the heat pushes the clean and air out, and that's what happens. And it's pretty interesting to see that people are learning slowly, and some people have been understanding that. I was reading about the World Bank estimated that more people moving towards the north. So
like
that
the
like
fish and the sharks and the turtles, they're all moving north because it's too hot.
Yeah, so we really are moving towards that. And that's why I feel oysters can help so much, because they can, on those hot days, they can do their work. They can be the filtration. They can be the so-called AC for the house. So that's why when I mentioned you the oysters, I could tell you a secret that actually behind my house, we found 70 coral reef doing a comeback. So yeah, definitely coral reefs are also my favorite, but the ocean starts, as we know, through the rivers, through the bays, through the lakes, through the mountains. So we need to save them so we can save oceans.
And the good news is, I mean, I think, at least in my area on the intercoastal, which the water flows in and out to the ocean, there's a lot of oysters on the pylons, like on all of the, like they're just showing up and they're doing some of their work, which is just like, so if you see those, don't try to scrape them off. Like there's some really good stuff happening whenever you see a waterway with oysters in it.
And oysters are also creating a reef. Mm-hmm. So oysters, so many amazing abilities, like we were talking about filtration system, the oxygen system, but also creating a reef. And we know that New York has been getting warnings that maybe by 2030, 33% might be underwater. But if we keep planting those oysters, we're creating a kind of reef what can stop the sea level rise, the major hurricanes.
Well, they take some of the energy from the storm too, right? So the waves come in, and the oysters can, and the new reef can absorb it, which is huge. So instead of having to spend billions of dollars building an artificial blockade, the oysters, right, are growing and expanding and doing it for us. How cool is that, right?
I honestly hope that any insurance company listens to this podcast and goes and tries to learn about oysters after this story, because the fact that we can also save money thanks to nature is pretty amazing. And we just we need to just keep planting them and have a good energy with them, and love them, and share the love with them, because they can do so much for us. And why don't we, you know?
So let me ask you one last question. That's to wrap it up. Give us, how do we get involved? How do we help this whole oyster? How do we pay more attention to the oxygen in the water? How do we get our weathermen to report on it? Like, tell us how to move this forward.
Well, number one thing is go to 1 Billion Oyster Project and learn about what they're doing. So try to bring that to your cities, because I learned from New York what to bring to Miami. And then when you are going and you see somebody eating oysters, start educating them. Pull up the phone, show the videos, how they can clean up, educate them. Maybe they go and tell their families. Maybe somebody is like, hey, I was looking something to do or somehow to save my city. So there it is.
I love that. Like it opens a conversation, right? Like somebody's eating oysters. They love oysters. And they're willing to have a conversation. Like, do you know that oysters are the solution to climate change? Like, how cool is that, right?
I said that another day to Michigan star chef. I invited the head chef to come out to educate him. And he was like, looking at me like, wow, I didn't know. I'm like, now you know, start collecting.
Right? So now you know.
Starts with that, just really educating and really being like excited, because in the end of the day, if that can save your family house, your family oxygen, your family happiness, then why not?
And what's wrong with some more beautiful pearls, right? Like maybe you'll get some pearls out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
I never exactly.
You never know. Anyway, thank you so much. This was so informative. I did not know enough about oysters, and now I know a little bit more, and I'm going to follow up on all that. And thank you for the great work you do. It's so important, and it's so joyful, and it's so much fun. And let's just keep starting keep the movements going of bringing people into your space and sharing your joyful energy and all that good stuff you do. And pick up trash wherever you go. Bring a bag, put it in your wallet, and pick up some trash, because it's just going to end up in the ocean. And we don't want it to end up in the ocean.
Exactly. Everybody can be a superhero every day, all day.
Awesome. Thank you, Lady Mermaid.
Thank you.
This has been a production of BLI Studios, produced by me, Kai. Follow along with our other BLI produced shows at balancinglifesissues.com/podcast-BLI. Got an idea for the show? Email me, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com. And don't forget to stay in touch with your host, Jessica, at jessica@winwinwinmindset.com. Anything else to add, Miles?
Yeah.